All right, Greg Glassman.
Sir, how are
Thank
you,
you, sir.
Justin?
I'm
Good
doing
to
great.
see you, buddy.
Thank you for having me here.
It's my pleasure.
We're here in the living room.
Yep.
We're here in the set of the most reviled piece of internet.
Is it really?
Probably, yeah.
I would hope for that. If just you claim it lets me brag it. So I'm gonna claim it.
Well, like
Thank you, haters.
Back when we talked about the launch of the new website, it was like you made it really clear that this video is not for us. It's not for me. It's not for anybody else. It's here inside the box right now. It's for us to share with somebody else. And I think it's enigmatic of where the company is moving, as a whole, right?
Russ Green saw it, and I thought that because there's a bit of abstraction to just the notion of taking a business that's shepherding 15,000 small businesses engaged in training, in a unique gym format and method of training, and here we are in a living room where this looks about as far from what we do as something could. And so I thought for Russ Green, because he doesn't deal with abstractions and nonsense aren't his cup of tea. He's a very literal, very, very hard, serious, rigorous thinker. And he said, this is the life threat to exercise as medicine. And what this means is CrossFit's in the living room. And to what extent it is in the living room? Well, we got 15,000 affiliates. I've got 175,000 trainers and 4 million punters perhaps?
Yeah.
And how many of them know people that are largely housebound, couch-bound, television-bound? I asked earlier, do you have those in your family? I'll put my hand up, I do.
Yep.
I have family in double wides. I've got family in single wides. I've got family that need to be dropped in on to see how they're doing. I got family and I've had family that we worried about their nutrition. You need to take a look at the refrigerator and make sure everything's okay. And how does that relate to the CrossFitter, to the affiliate? Well, in the case of our Mark Warkenton, it was his mom. It's certainly my stepmom and my mother. And what do we have for them? Well, bring them into the box is one possibility. We saw that with David Osorio in CrossFit Brooklyn in the case of Constance, and I got to meet her son, which was just great. But those are outliers, not in terms of the potential for the impact and the reach, but in terms of who walks by the gym. And Constance is one of those odd walk-bys. Yeah. Look, it's amazing, her stories. Imagine the courage of her and her condition to say, help, come on in. I think you got something for me here. Yeah, exactly. She saw it ahead of probably most of my affiliates. I'm not going to wait for that. And the suggestion here, and again, the website is not B2C, it's B2B. And who's the audience? Well, it's the docs in the box. It's the 10-year affiliates, my flow masters. And they have already thought, geez, can we reach those people? And the reason we ask that is because the benefit that would accrue to that group, to the people in the places that look like this, like the last set, watching that, stuck to this, the potential for the miracle of the adaptation of the CrossFit Seamless is most pronounced there in that space. And yet we seem to not be there. Why? Well, it's a difficult space to be in, for sure. But once you're in it, it's the same thing. We need to pick things up off the ground. We need to put things up overhead.
Functional movement at its most.
We want to breathe hard. We want to be careful.
Exactly.
We don't want to get hurt. And we want to make sure that there's no shit in the refrigerator. And so how do we start with that? Well, with the look and feel of that thing, and let's show people in that space. The people that don't like it, I'm going to tell you a few things about them. First of all, they're low IQ. It's a stupid fucking crowd. What they want to see is they want it to look like the Kardashian living room. They want to see special effects. They want to see ICG. They want to see, and this looks common. It looks like one missed check away on the 1st or the 15th from ruin. It looks like someone dependent on Social Security. It looks like something that we all know, and that I haven't found enough success, and I'm not so far removed from it that I hold those people in disdain. Right. And I know a lot of people do.
So I think I already know the answer to this, but I'll just pose a question and let you answer. Is what do you think? Okay, so we've got a lot of affiliates now that are reaching this 10-year mark. what do you think that the affiliate of the future needs to look like? How do they need to adapt and change? So that when we're talking about the 15 and the 20-year affiliate, when I come back here in a few years and we're having that discussion, what do they need to look like to be successful and to thrive?
I couldn't have told you 10 years ago that the successful affiliates in the future are going. I might have told you that they would have large clienteles and be super dedicated to their clients.
Well, economically, they're going to have some components of that thing, but
yeah, that part was kind of plain. But I think that part of what had to happen was I needed to go from 45 to 60 something, and you know, a bunch of us have sent elementary school kids now off to college, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, things are changing. We're looking at our parents and wondering about the future, not just theirs but ours and our kids. And so there's a certain maturing that's occurred. But I tell you what, if I had a message for a 3-year affiliate, it would be to listen to a Nadia Shatia or a Curtis Bowler or a Matt Swift. There's one near you, a 10-year affiliate, and as quickly as you could, and start to inculcate, adapt, cultivate, nurture, incubate those values. That, like, well, you know, what's different today than was 10 years ago, and I know it's very, very different for all of those. And so my message to the younger crowd is take a look at the older crowd.
okay.
Take a look at the older crowd.
So you're an avid reader. You love reading. You're probably I would call like a lifelong student. You know, you're constantly learning and changing and writing and reading. What would be one book that you would recommend to every coach and affiliate owner right now that they should read?
Oh, geez, you know, I could turn this into something political quickly and dig into some Hayek and, you know, free market kind of stuff, or
what's one thing you've read in the last 12
cholesterol
months
myths,
that's
you know?
changed your thinking?
I was prepared for this question. I was toting some books around recently. Let me tell you what, I'm about to go on family vacation. Let me tell you what I'm dragging with me again.
It's great.
Because every time I read it, it hits me with a little different impact. I am bringing with me George Mann's book on cardiovascular disease. Tiny little thing written by the Veritas Society. It's at this Groundhog Day thing. It was pre-Thinks and Ufi Ravenskov. You know, like I didn't realize until just recently that every 30 years there's a whole new crowd of people that understand the evils of carbohydrate, and for the exact same reasons. And each time it's portrayed as though it were a brand new, you know, like, wow, this is just in. No, it's hundreds of years old.
We've been eating for 2,000 years.
Yes.
Somehow we've stumbled upon this fundamental truth.
I'm going back on some old literature that I just need to keep looking at again.
Okay.
You know, I could kick myself in the ass for having read Cholesterol Myths in 2003, publishing all 12 myths in consecutive days on the website, and then moving on as if we had covered it. We should have covered the cholesterol myths monthly since 2003. And I come back now, and it was important in 2003, but it is an emergency here in 2019.
Right.
The same information. There has been no refutation. There has been no argumentation. There has been, in fact, the only way to have dealt with Ufi for the opposition effectively, and they have. I'll tell you, they have been effective by completely ignoring him and act like he never existed. And now he's in his 80s and in poor health. And so what the opposition is doing is waiting for Ufi to die. And I see it as our role, you know, so reading new books, you know. I just got some clinical guidelines for taking people off carbohydrate. And my reaction was somewhat nasty to him. It came out of Low Carb USA, God bless him, clinical guidelines. But you know what? I don't need medical literature, clinical guidelines that tell people not to eat sugar or factory-produced carbohydrate. That shouldn't require
right.
That shouldn't require medical guidelines. You know.
Okay. So most people still refer to you as coach or Coach Glassman. You're a coach at heart. You know, you famously used to teach and instruct the L1 for many, many years. If you were a workout, if there was a Greg benchmark workout, what would you program?
Well, Fran's mine, and I still hate it. Every time I've been asked so many times, what's your favorite workout? But maybe I could dance around your question and share something with you that I think is really cool. And that is this recent effort at stretching planks, lowering from handstands, scales, and L-sit. And we've played with its slip or spill, or you can get different acronyms out of it. But there's some efforts wallowing around on the floor, stuff that anyone, that was one of the questions here, stuff that anyone can participate in. And I have a radically different athlete that can say, let's just look at each of these things. How many people self-report having flexibility issues? Most. So that, I'm not going to dig into the stretching too much. We pretty much come understanding the value of that. The planks, what that is for midline stabilization is just amazing. From holding a planche to just the arm-supported ones. The primary job of the core muscles is stabilization for peripheral dynamics, not for the core's dynamics. And so the most important thing the midsection can do is to anchor itself, to cement the spine into its normal S shape. And so I've got that out of the planks. The presses to handstands, they're all learned from the negative. There's a progression from something that almost anyone could do, but most can't, to stuff that no one's going to do. It's just really, really tough. But anyone can be on that line, and the capacity, say, of someone. So let's just talk about someone that's doesn't self-report as flexible. We'll go through each of these. Finds the planks very comfortable, can do all of them, side, back, front, all that, and hold them for minutes at a time, and without trembling or sweating. L-sit for 3 minutes. All the scales, just stand there and hold it. It's nice, and what that does is speaks to both flexibility and balance. Right. What are we leaving out here? Oh, and on the press to handstand, how about flat body, straight leg, bent arm press to handstand? So from the push-up position, drive to handstand. At the point I have an athlete that can perform at those levels and those things, I have something that is actually an enhancement to even the games athletes, and would be potentially life-saving to someone glued to this watching that. And so that's a modern contribution. I love the resistance to it. And when someone said, that's like a fucked up yoga class, I was like, perfect. Because I recognize the blended capacities from involving yourself in stretching, planks, the handstand sequence we're asking for, L-sit, and whatever the other one was. Those 5 elements, what you should do is engage in them regularly at any dose that produces discernible improvement. And along the way, what we have is a dramatically improved athlete. It's a very different kind of programming and a different effort. It is more yoga-like than racing someone at Fran. Yeah. But if those that haven't figured out right now that the training environment works a little differently than the competitive environment, you're a fool. And so if you're doing cheating push-ups alone in your gym by yourself, anything other than against the clock, thinking about what kind of push-up is required to fool a judge, it's probably a mistake. I'm going to do things in competition that I would never do in training.
Sure. Change gears a little bit more towards competition. First year that we've ever had sanctioned events. It seems to be going really well so far. What are some of the things that you've noticed throughout this, as this process is unfolding? You're like, this is exactly what we're looking for. This is what we wanted. What are some of the positives of this season that you've seen, even amidst kind of this more chaotic season? And
brother, we've unleashed something that was spontaneous. These events were going on. There's very, very few of them that were created for the sanctional effort. And so what we did is went back around to our brothers and sisters, affiliates, staff, employees, family, and friends, and let them know that you don't have to hide what you're doing anymore. You can call it CrossFit. Sure. We don't see it as the business. It's not our business. It's a promotional vehicle, but those that see it as that, Wadapalooza, God bless them. I hope it works. There's others that are doing it as a community effort to buy equipment. I think that's noble and wonderful, but we're there to support them. And what I've seen is the professionalism of Iceland, the big sponsors of the Emirates, the camaraderie of Britain, It looks great to me.
Yeah.
It looks great. This is what I wanted to see.
That's great.
And I'm really excited because the Swiss are excited, the Japanese are excited, the Chinese are excited because they got a champion coming.
Right.
And there's going to be 100 extra countries at the games this year, along with the same fucking people that were going to win anyways. They're still there.
Probably there. Right. Yep,
yeah.
You're right. At the end of the day, the podium, the top of the leaderboard is probably not going to be too much different. The same people are going to make it back and probably do that.
We took the new rules and ran regressions of past years' data.
Yeah.
And we know that the current structure is exceedingly unlikely to alter the outcome.
Right.
We've
done a similar,
just the nature of
similar model.
Yeah,
and
we're
produced
safe.
very similar results.
We're safe.
So that actually brings up sort of one of my final questions. Is one of the big unknowns that we're going into now with the game season is the elimination process. Can you speak to that a little bit and maybe how that's going to kind of unfold with so many more athletes that are going to be competing?
There's going to be some super talented, amazingly fit individuals from all over the world who's a couple hours into their debut games experience, it's over. That's going to happen. But by God, that happens at the Olympics.
Sure.
We get to see the people that made it through all the heats in the final round, and the winner of this gets a gold medal or maybe moves to the final round. And so there are all kinds of people that were there, and they are Olympians. And in fact, I would just tell you, as having been around athletics and elite athletes my whole life, I'm an LA guy fundamentally. And I've got more hope for the people that in the Olympics. I think that if you just were to look at the outcome of people who scored 4, 5, and 6 versus 1, 2, 3, for everyone on a Wheaties box, there's 4 people are crack addicts living in an alley somewhere. It's like it's doing well at the Olympics isn't the road to anything other than doing well at the Olympics.
Sure.
But there are people that came in the spirit of the Olympics and champions that went on to do just amazing things from all walks of life. We know some bankers. We know a banker that was Joe, was a Olympian and then walked onto the Jets from Harvard. Went to the Olympics and walked onto the Jets and played. And it's not all about winning. And this is that point made. I'm really interested in who the fittest guy from India is, fittest gal from Japan. And give them a chance.
It sounds like the way that's going to play out is that majority of athletes will probably only be competing for about one day, or
that's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
I think we're going to go from a Wednesday through Sunday. We're going to be from a couple hundred and get winnowed down to on Sunday. You're largely watching 10 people. Yeah. 10 men, 10 women. Okay. And that's preferable to me.
When do you know yet when you guys are planning to detail out the format and a more specific?
It's coming really soon, and I don't want to step on Mr. Castro's toes, but it's very short. But you can expect this thing to be like a Wednesday through Sunday, moving a stadium full of people through a very narrow doorway.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, one last question.
But that what's really neat is I'm excited about, 2 days in, there's a fellow from God knows where on the other side of the world, and her event's over. If you need to sit with them and talk and look at the rest, and I tell you what I'd do if I came here from another country, I'd look however I did, and I'd be looking next year for right. And in every one of these countries too, there's someone looking at the national champ going, he's not going to be the next national champ next year.
Fostering competition even at the national level, and hoping that's eventually going to rise to the level of competition broadly, like in a global.
Justin, thanks for seeing this. This was desperately needed for this. Yeah.
Well, by and large, we've been traveling to a lot of these events. We've seen this. We've been talking with these event leaders and directors of these events, and they're putting on a lot of effort in that area. And a lot of these national champions are really excited about their first opportunity here to compete at the games. Some of these athletes are very, very fit. They were what you call like a borderline athlete that was just not quite there against some of the more fitter, more senior veteran athletes. And, they're going to be able to come up there and make a splash and hopefully, raise the level of their competition. In any sport, whether it's gymnastics or basketball or football, if you compete with people who are better, you will move faster. You will adapt. You will develop strengths and skills, and you will learn from other people.
Yeah, and Justin, who amongst us entertains the notion that we would be the first sport in the history of the world that didn't have crazy upsets?
Right. Wow.
It's going to happen.
Upsets make for good sport and good entertainment.
It's the best. Those are your highlights, right?
Right. Well, it looks like you got to go, so thank you for joining me.
Anytime.
Appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks to all your people.
Thank you very much.